This conference will now be recorded.
Well, hello, folks. This is Steve Rayburn, and I am going to be talking about a topic which has come up several times, and it has to do with how to hit the mark or hit the port, if you will, with a duck quote drawing. And this is really an important point. Duck quote is by design going to use standard sizes and standard fittings. In other words, our branches, for instance, follow a formula as to how long they are, which is based on the actual diameters involved. Now, in duck quote, you can draw a section of duct any length that you want that is greater than 4 inches. You can't draw something shorter than 4 inches. However, just because you draw it that long does not mean that duck quote has a part that is that size. And this is very important. So, what this session is going to be about is how to draw to use those standard sizes and hit the mark. It's going to involve both how to check to make sure where that is, as far as the end of the duct reaching and hitting the right port, and also we'll talk about some strategies and techniques. So here is a section of an actual duck quote that was done recently. And you can notice if we zoom in that there are quite a few very close connections made here. Okay. Now it's been begun, and you can see at this end that we do in fact have, that's number 18 and this is number 16. We've got these that are very close. And if we zoom in, you'll notice that we have a 30-degree branch here, a 30-degree branch here, and in between them is a short section of duct. That is so that we actually hit the marks. Let me show you how to check. If we put ourselves in draw mode, and as you know, to make a branch, we can hover over an existing duct section over the center line, and we see the crosshairs down on the actual floor or floor plan. Well, I can do that with a vertical piece as well, and you can see that this, in fact, the crosshairs do fall on where that should hit. If I do it on the one that goes up, again, we can see the crosshairs fall on where that should hit. Now, this is an example where something is just slightly off center, okay? So here's how we would adjust this. The first thing we do is go into edit mode, and we look to see, yes, there is a piece of straight duct that can, what I call, absorb the change. Now, remember, we are just off center. This is a 6-inch piece of pipe. And so I'm going to guess that we are about 2 inches off of the center there in the blue direction, which happens to be this line here. So I'm going to go back into edit, and I'm simply going to take 2 inches out of this. 57 inches now becomes 55 inches. And because we want to move this piece that way, we want to move the upstream end. So we click Shift Upstream. And now if we go back into draw mode and hover there, we're almost on dead center. Maybe we should have pulled out 1 inch, and we could do that. But let's move on. You see how that we can check and make adjustments there. Let's move on to where we're actually going to have to put these things into place. So here we have a couple of very tight fitting areas. So I'm going to start with this first one, the one closest to the collector. We're in draw mode, and I can see that this is a 30-degree branch. Since this one is so close, this is almost assuredly a 45, but everything else I see is a 30. So I'm going to see if I can do this with a 30. I'm going to come back, and right here, I'm going to click, and I'm going to tell it I want a 30 degree, and then I'm just going to use this to see if it follows that line. And in fact, it doesn't. You can see it veering off. So we'll switch over to 45 and see if that follows. Well, it does follow parallel. Unfortunately, what it doesn't do is start in the center. So I'm going to right-click to cancel that, and we're going to go back, and I'm going to start a little bit closer. Click there, choose my 45, and there I'm running right down the center, and I come to the center of where that elbow would be, and I click to proceed. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually add, these are 36-inch vertical drops, just like that. So that one is finished. But now we've got to get this next one. Now, some people might start here and draw straight out and let duck quote create the elbow and the branch. But I want to point something out to you. If you look here, you can see there's a little bit of duct in their drawing, and I'm guessing they're right. So we are going to draw our branch just like we did here. And I'm simply going to come back until I reach that line right there. If you're looking on the drawing, I'm going to click, tell it 30 degrees. And then we're going to look and see, are we following in the center? Well, looks like we're just off, okay? So again, we're going to go back a little bit further to that other line there, right about there, 30 degrees. And now you can see we're in the center of that duct. And sometimes it's hard to see, but I'm going to come back until I'm even with the center of the next piece. And now we will draw over and we'll finish on that circle. Now, this, by the way, is an up, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. But here's where things get interesting. Notice that duck quote is telling us we have a problem here. That's what that warning symbol says, that duck quote has detected that what we have drawn doesn't actually fit, okay? So if I select this little section, which should be the distance between the two laterals, okay? I can see that I drew it at 7 1/4 inches. However, it needs to be a little over twice that. It needs to be 15 3/4. Now be very careful here. Watch what can happen. If you just simply hit fix, and most people would fix in this direction, in the upstream direction, watch what happens. We click and we fix upstream. Notice this entire piece moved. So let's spin around and see just how far off that pushed us. Look at that. We are about 7 1/2 to 8 inches off. Now, the good news is this. We have a little bit of pipe here that we can use to absorb our move back. So if we simply take that, and for me, the fastest way to do this is to pull it back to where it's only the lateral from the branch and the elbow. So I'm going to give it a distance that I know is too short. I'm going to say 20 inches. And again, I'm going to pull this way, so that's upstream. And good. It tells me I've gone too short. I now let it fix it to the minimum length, and again, upstream. Okay. So now we're going to check again, where are we? I go to draw mode, and I hover on the vertical, and look, I am on the edge of the duct. So this is 6-inch duct. So if I can get this thing 3 inches closer, I'll be on target. Well, searching here, 3 inches is going to pull that thing out of the way, but what if we made this a little bit longer? Okay, so I'm actually going to do, and this, I know I'm undoing something I just did, but I'm going to put 3 inches back into this. And this time I will push this one downstream. So instead of 15 3/4, we're just going to say, round things off, 19 inches. And again, like I said, we're going to push it downstream. Okay? So now, if we look at this, we are in fact slightly off. However, we now have room to pull this one in. So I can now pull this back in to my 15 3/4. But this time I will change it upstream. And if we now check, we are there. I just need to push it out a little further. Again, about 3 inches. So instead of 47, we're going to go to 50 inches upstream. Now this may seem laborious, but if you have to hit the mark on these ports, this is what you've got to check. Now, we aren't done yet. Remember, we have to fix this one. This one may involve having to change something about this. Okay? So let's check for a second. I'm simply going to pull this out of the way. And let's see if we can actually make this a 30 degree now and get away with it. So we're going to change the in of this from 45 to a 30. And we're going to draw that 6-inch lateral at 30 degrees. 6 inches, there we go. And I'm going to see if, nope, that's not going to get us there, is it? So we're going to go back to our 45. And again, our 6-inch. So here we go. We come to right about there, and I turn off my snap. Okay. And we correct this to be the 45 again. Let's now push this back and see where we are. We're within 2 to 3 inches there, okay? And that may be as good as we can get with this particular configuration where they've drawn things so close, okay? Now, another way to deal with this is we might move this entire branch and simply come down here. You would have to check with your client to see if there's an obstruction in this area. And in this case, I believe there is. But we could come from back here and then a straight piece over. That would be another way that we could do that. All right. So again, using in draw mode, the fact that you can hover over and see the actual crosshairs down on the drawing allows you to double check, have you hit the port. Do not fall into the trap of when DuckQuote tells you that you have something that is too short, that you can just willy-nilly change it, allow DuckQuote to fix it without coming back and double checking, am I still on target or not? All right? All right, terrific. So, appreciate you guys listening, and if you have any questions, as always, send them to DuckQuote at usduck.com or pick up the phone and give us a holler.